My family mocked me as broke and kicked me out. Months later, when they learned I sold my AI startup for $25 million, their smiles instantly died. You ever grow up in a house where everything your sibling did was amazing, while everything you did was either wrong or pure luck? Yeah, that's basically my entire childhood. My brother Randy was the golden child from the moment he was born. The way my mom acted around him, you'd swear he invented electricity. The dude could spill a drink and she'd go, "He's creative. He just expresses himself differently." Meanwhile, if I sneezed too loud, I'd get a 20-minute lecture about respect and discipline. Randy never had to lift a finger in his entire life. When we were kids, Mom made his bed, packed his lunch, even did his school projects for him. He'd hand in a cardboard box painted blue and somehow get an A. I'd build an entire working volcano with real chemical lava and still miss the point of the assignment. That's the kind of double standard crap I grew up with. Fast forward to adulthood, and literally nothing had changed. Mom and Dad covered his rent all through college, paid off his car, even helped him start a business once, which was basically Randy buying a fancy camera and calling himself a content creator. That business lasted exactly 2 months before he sold the camera to pay off his credit card debt. Mom called it a valuable learning experience. When I was his age, I worked 2 jobs, attended community college at night, and fixed busted computers for cash on the side. You think they were proud? Nah. They told me I should have planned better instead of chasing quick money. The family logic was brutally simple. When Randy failed, it was the world's fault. When I succeeded, it was an accident or dumb luck. There's one story that still makes me laugh, mostly out of sheer disbelief. Randy once called me crying because his rent was overdue and his girlfriend threatened to leave him if he got evicted. He begged me for $5,000. At that time, that was literally every penny I had managed to save. I told him I'd help, but he had to pay me back once he got his next paycheck. He swore up and down, "Of course, you're my brother." That money vanished faster than common sense ever did in that house. A few months later, I brought it up politely. He immediately got defensive and acted like I was the greedy one for even mentioning it. Mom jumped in with her classic line, "Rye's doing his best. Why can't you support him without expecting something in return?" That was the exact moment I realized there was no winning with them. No matter what I did, I would always be the problem. So I stopped trying to win. Instead, I started playing dumb on purpose. I learned early that if you act like you're struggling, people stop watching you closely. They stop asking questions. So that's exactly what I did. While they thought I was some underachieving freelancer barely scraping rent together, I was quietly building something that actually mattered, an AI automation startup. Not the flashy Silicon Valley influencer type either. It started in my garage with 1 laptop, 1 insane idea, and 0 sleep for months. I taught myself coding from YouTube tutorials, picked up clients online, and slowly built a system that helped small logistics companies automate their entire operations. Nothing glamorous, just brutally efficient. The real trick was keeping it completely invisible. I set up a shell LLC, used an alias for the founder name, and hired remote developers who didn't even know my real identity. It was kind of fun, honestly. I'd show up at family dinners wearing the same old hoodie and $30 sneakers, while they bragged about Rye's latest genius business idea. Something about reselling refurbished gym equipment. Mom would beam and say, "That's my boy, always thinking big." Then she'd look at me and go, "You're still freelancing, right? You should network more, learn from your brother." I'd nod and mumble, "Yeah, maybe next year," while quietly checking my phone to approve invoices, worth more than their combined yearly income. The contrast was absolutely ridiculous. Randy lived in a rented condo that Mom and Dad still paid for. I owned a company that was quietly receiving 8-figure acquisition offers, but to them, he was the successful one. I used to get irritated. Now I just found it hilarious. The more they underestimated me, the easier it became to plan my next moves. I made sure my real name wasn't attached to any of my ventures. Car registration under the company. Bank accounts layered multiple entities deep. They thought I was terrible with money. In reality, I was untouchable. Every time I visited, Mom would say, "You should ask your brother for financial advice. He's good with money." Randy, who once maxed out 3 credit cards buying limited edition gaming chairs and sneakers, would smirk like he was Warren Buffett. I'd just smile back and think, yeah, maybe he can teach me how to make money disappear. They never got the joke. By age 30, I had enough savings to retire comfortably if I wanted to. But I wasn't done yet. That wasn't the point at all. I wanted to see how far I could push it while still being the broke kid in their eyes. So I kept the mask on, old truck, plain clothes, casual attitude. It became a running joke at family gatherings. Sam, the struggling tech guy. They'd laugh about it, and I'd laugh with them because deep down I already knew the moment they discovered who I had actually become would change everything. Not because I wanted their validation, hell no, but because I wanted to watch their faces when the guy they pitied turned out to be the one holding all the cards. If the only thing they ever respected was money, I would make damn sure they never saw mine coming. So, right before signing the deal that would make me a multi-millionaire, I decided to test one final thing: loyalty. I already knew the answer, but I wanted proof, the kind that sticks forever. The company I built was crushing it. Clients lined up, contracts rolling in, and a $25 million acquisition offer sat in my inbox. Yet, instead of celebrating, I asked myself, what would they do if I suddenly lost everything? It wasn't about the money anymore. I just wanted to know if I even existed to them outside of a potential paycheck. So I set the stage. I called my mom first, told her I'd lost my biggest freelance client, had no projects lined up, and needed a place to crash for a week or two. I made sure to sound exhausted, like someone who had finally hit rock bottom. She sighed so loudly my ear rang. "Sam, when will you ever learn? You can't live like this. You're 32, not 16. Yeah, because Randy never made a mistake past age 5, right? I told her I just needed a couch for a few days until I found something else. Silence. Then, your brother has his own place, but I don't think it's fair to bother him. He has responsibilities. That word, responsibilities, was always code for Rye is special, and you're not. I said I'd call him directly. Randy picked up mid-chew, probably eating something his wife cooked while he worked from home. What's up? I fed him the fake story, lost my only client, struggling to pay rent, just need a couch for a few nights. He laughed, the smug, nasty kind that says he'd been waiting years for this call. Dude, you're serious? You're still doing that freelance crap? Man, you should have listened to Mom. I told you needed a stable career. I said, yeah, well, stability never really ran in the family. He ignored it. Anyway, the condo's kind of full right now, and the wife's not cool with guests. Maybe Mom can help. Mom had already refused. So I tried one last time. It's literally just a few days, man. He scoffed. You can't just show up and expect people to take care of you. We all make our choices. I made mine right. His choice being to live off our parents well into his 30s. He ended the call with, you should probably learn from me, bro. Get serious about life. I stared at my phone for a solid 10 seconds after he hung up, then laughed out loud. That was my brother, the same guy who once called me sobbing because he didn't know how to pay his Wi-Fi bill. I didn't even have to fake the next call. Mom beat me to it. She started with your brother told me what happened, and ended with, we can't support you like this, Sam. You made your choices. We're not responsible for your stupid decisions. That line hit me not because it hurt, but because it was so familiar, the exact same speech she gave when I took my first job instead of grad school. She finished with, you can't come here, Sam. We don't have the space. And honestly, you need to grow up and face reality. Reality. I had built an entire company they didn't even know existed. I almost told her right then. Almost. But I stopped myself. Instead, I said, you're right, Mom. I'll figure something out. Good, she replied. Maybe this will finally teach you a lesson. Yeah, it did. Just not the one she thought. I hung up and sat in my car outside a random grocery store, watching normal people carry bags while I pretended to be broke, when in reality my lawyer was waiting for my signature on a $25 million deal. I opened my laptop right there in the parking lot, finished the remote closing via DocuSign with my lawyer on speaker, and clicked sign while the sound of my trackpad felt louder than her entire lecture. While Mom and Randy were probably eating dinner and trashing me for never learning, I was closing a deal that made their combined yearly income look like lunch money. I didn't call anyone after that. I didn't need to. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. The kind of done that doesn't require revenge or explanations, just silence. They could keep their perfect son, their delusions, their responsibility speeches. I had my own life now. Fast forward 3 weeks to Randy's birthday. Mom had been hyping it for days. We're doing something special this year, like he hadn't already. Had 31 over-the-top birthdays in a row. A few months earlier, he had finally financed a small house, the first thing actually in his name, and he wouldn't shut up about it. Mom acted like he'd built it brick by brick, never mind the mortgage that was eating him alive. They chose a pretentious downtown restaurant where the menu has 3 items and no prices. I wasn't planning to go, but then I thought, nah, this timing is too perfect. Everyone else looked like they were auditioning for a country club catalog. Randy had his arm around his wife, grinning like he actually ran something important. Spoiler, he didn't. Mom saw me and frowned instantly. You came, she said, like my presence was an inconvenience. Yeah, didn't want to miss the royal celebration. She rolled her eyes. Dad gave his standard neutral nod, the one that means he's not picking a side. Randy smirked. You finally crawled out of your hole, huh? I smiled. Something like that. Dinner conversation was the same script as always, Mom gushing over Randy's promotion, really just a title change, Randy bragging about how hard management is, and me sitting quietly, letting them dig deeper. Halfway through, Mom turned to me, so, Sam, what are you doing these days? Still chasing those little freelance projects? I sipped my water. Something like that. Keeping busy. Randy laughed. Man, you really should have listened to me. Stability, bro. You can't bounce from gig to gig forever. I nodded. You're right. Stability is important. He leaned back, smug. Exactly. Not everyone's built for the long game like me. Even his wife looked embarrassed. Dessert arrived and everyone clapped like he'd cured cancer. When the applause died down, I slid a small gold-wrapped box across the table. Randy raised an eyebrow. What's this? Open it. It reminded me of you. He tore off the paper and opened the box. Inside was a $4 calculator, the cheap kind from a gas station. The table went silent. Mom's face went pale. Randy forced a laugh. Calculator? Yeah, I said calmly. You're gonna need it more than I do. He chuckled awkwardly. Okay, funny joke. I leaned back and said, as casually as commenting on the weather, sold my company 2 weeks ago. $25 million deal. The sound Mom made wasn't human. Forks hit plates. Dad froze mid-bite. Randy's fake smile died instantly. For 5 full seconds, nobody spoke, just the low hum of the restaurant while their brains blue-screened. Then Randy tried to laugh again, high-pitched and wrong. You're lying. Nope. You don't even have a real job, he shouted. Heads turned. Mom hissed, Randy, lower your voice. But the meltdown switch had flipped. He stood so fast his chair fell backward. This isn't fair. I did everything right. Degree, job, house. You don't deserve that money. He punched the wall hard enough to make the booth shake. His wife jumped up, mortified. Randy, stop. He kept screaming, you owe me at least half. 15 million, that's fair. Mom stood too, pointing at me. He's right. You stole his future, Sam. You should share. I stayed seated, perfectly calm. When the screaming peaked, Mom yelling, Randy sobbing, Dad uselessly trying to calm them, I stood, looked them in the eyes and said quietly, you know what's funny? You raised me to survive without you. Guess I listened. I grabbed my jacket and walked out. Randy screamed after me, you can't walk away from family. I didn't look back. The night air felt like freedom. About a week after the birthday meltdown, life went suspiciously quiet. Too quiet. No texts, no lectures, no guilt trips, which with my family only meant one thing, they were cooking up something shady. Then one Thursday morning I got an email from my accountant, Patricia. Subject line, urgent. New document filed under your name. I opened it expecting tax stuff. Nope. It was a scanned PDF labeled Certification of Family Trust. The thing looked fake from the first glance, fancy letterhead, overblown legal language, and my name plastered everywhere. Then I saw the signature, a shaky, obviously forged version of my own. It looked like Randy had tried to copy it with his left hand while sneezing. The document claimed I had agreed to place 40% of my assets, roughly $10 million, into a shared family trust to promote financial harmony. 3 days later, a courier showed up at my door with another envelope, Family Trust Amendment Notice. They had doubled down, filed an official amendment to make their forgery look legitimate. Translation, they tried to rob me using Microsoft Word and a notary who clearly never saw me in person. Patricia called a minute later, sounding uneasy. Sam, please tell me this is fake. Oh, it's real, I said, just not legal. She hesitated. Do you want me to report it immediately? I didn't answer right away. My accounts were already locked tighter than Fort Knox. Every transaction over $10,000 required my direct verbal confirmation, and the payout was held in escrow under an independent trustee, completely untouchable. So I said, not yet, we're safe. Let's see how far they're willing to go. She sighed, but knew me well enough not to argue. 3 days later, Mom called out of nowhere. Her voice was sugary sweet, the tone she used right before asking for something big. Sam, we've been talking as a family. It's time we formalize things. You've done so well, and Rye is under so much stress. We just want to make sure everyone is protected. Protected from what? I asked. You know, from mistakes, from outsiders. It's for your own good. I smiled to myself. So that family trust thing, that was your idea? She hesitated. It's what responsible families do, Sam. We just need your signature to make it official. Right, because nothing says family love like forged paperwork. Her tone hardened instantly. Don't start with that attitude. You're lucky we're even involving you. I almost laughed. Yeah, Mom. I feel super lucky right now. After I hung up, I called my lawyer Carla and told her we were moving. She said, then we'll do this properly. No drama, just exposure. We brought in a private investigator named Harris, old school detective, trench coat, coffee breath, zero small talk. Within a week, he sent me a report that could have been its own Netflix true crime series. Turns out Mom, Dad, and Randy had been emailing each other for days before the forgery. Harris pulled the recorded trust paperwork from the county recorder portal, matched the notary details, and found their entire plan in writing. Mom, once he sees the trust is already filed, He'll understand it's for the family. He's always been difficult. Randy will just tell him it's standard procedure. The trust ensures my security if something happens to you guys. They literally tried to write themselves into my money as if I wouldn't notice, but Harris kept digging. Bank statements, tax filings, property records, and it got juicy. My responsible parents had been drowning in debt for years, unpaid property taxes, a maxed-out home equity line under Randy's name, a small business loan they defaulted on 3 years ago. They weren't protecting me. They were protecting their sinking ship. Carla looked through the files and smirked. They think you're a soft target. Let's show them what ungrateful really looks like. We spent the next week prepping. Every forged line, every fake signature, every incriminating email was documented, notarized, and time-stamped. We even had the notary confirm on record that no in-person acknowledgement ever happened. The seal was misused. The whole thing was invalid on its face. Instead of filing charges immediately, I wanted the timing to be poetic. So I waited and let them submit it officially. The second it became public record, we made our move. That night, a thick envelope labeled Family Trust Amendment Notice arrived by legal courier, their masterpiece, complete with my forged signature, filed, stamped, and notarized. I almost wanted to frame it. I met with Carla and Harris. We drafted our counterstrike, a cease and desist letter citing forgery and financial misrepresentation, a fraud report prepared for the state, an IRS alert on their undeclared debts and fake filings. The cherry on top was attaching copies of their own planning emails titled Exhibit A, the Family Trust, Attempted Fraud. Carla grinned when she saw the final file. This is going to sting. Good, I said. They always wanted to feel important. Let's give them headlines. The emails went out to their lawyer, the court clerk, and every agency that hates paperwork fraud. Then I waited. It didn't take long. The next morning my phone exploded. Mom, Dad, and Randy calling back to back. I didn't answer a single one. They could leave voicemails. The game had changed. The court date came faster than expected. Fraud cases involving millions tend to jump the queue. I walked into the courthouse in a simple black suit, no tie. Carla walked beside me carrying the thick binder that basically contained my family's self-destruction. Inside, Randy and my parents were already seated at the defendant's table. Mom clutched a tissue like she was auditioning for a soap opera. Dad avoided eye contact. Randy fidgeted, trying to look confident but radiating pure panic. His wife sat behind him, arms crossed, face cold. The judge, a stern woman in her mid-50s, flipped through the files with zero emotion. We're here regarding the matter of the fraudulent family trust filed under Mr. Samuel Hayes' name. Mr. Hayes, your counsel may begin. Carla stood, ice calm. Thank you, Your Honor. What you'll find here is a deliberate attempt by the defendants to create and file falsified legal documents under my client's identity with the goal of gaining access to nearly $10 million of his private assets. She handed over the stack of exhibits, emails, forged signatures, timestamps. The judge skimmed the first pages, then looked up, unimpressed. Who signed this? She asked, holding up the forged trust. Randy cleared his throat. We all did, Your Honor. It was just a misunderstanding. We didn't mean any harm. Carla raised an eyebrow. A misunderstanding that required faking my client's signature? Randy stammered. It wasn't like that. We thought he'd agree. Mom jumped in. Your Honor, we're a close family. We just wanted to protect everyone. Sam's always been impulsive with money. We were only trying to make sure he didn't make another mistake. The judge looked at her like she'd just confessed to robbing a bank for charity. Mrs. Hayes, are you aware that forging a legal signature constitutes fraud under state law? Mom blinked. We didn't forge it. Maybe Randy helped fill it in. Carla interjected smoothly. Your Honor, Exhibit B is the handwriting analysis. The signature was created using a traced overlay. Mr. Randy Hayes' pen pressure patterns match the forgery precisely. Randy froze. You could hear the color drain from his face. The judge stared him down. Mr. Hayes, did you sign your brother's name? His jaw clenched. It's not what it looks like, his wife muttered loud enough for the whole room to hear. It looks exactly like what it looks like. Quiet laughter rippled through the gallery. Carla continued. Your Honor, we also discovered additional irregularities, undeclared debts, unpaid taxes, and fraudulent credit lines. My client believes the motivation was to conceal those financial issues by gaining access to his funds. The judge flipped to the bank statements and her eyes narrowed. So not only did you falsify a legal document, you did so to cover your own debts. Randy started sweating. He owes us. He owes the family. That's when I spoke for the first time, calm and clear. I don't owe you anything, Randy. You still owe me $5,000 from 2018, remember? The courtroom cracked with laughter again. Even the clerk smirked. Mom hissed, Sam, this isn't the time. The judge cut her off. Actually, this is exactly the time, Mrs. Hayes. You and your family are accused of serious financial crime. You will remain silent until addressed. For once, Mom actually listened. Carla finished dismantling them piece by piece. By the time she sat down, they had nothing left but excuses. The judge leaned back. This is one of the most blatant examples of family entitlement I've seen in 20 years on this bench. Mr. Randy Hayes, you forged a signature, filed false documents, and attempted to misappropriate millions. Your parents participated. You're lucky Mr. Samuel Hayes pursued this civilly and not criminally. Randy looked stunned. Criminally? Carla answered before I could. Yes. Felony charges were an option. His wife's face twisted in shock and disgust. She whispered something, stood, and walked straight out. Randy reached after her, panicking. Where are you going? She turned at the door. Out. I'm done cleaning up after a grown man crying about another man's money. The room went dead silent, except for Randy's voice cracking as he called after her. The judge signed the final order. Fraudulent trust voided. Sanctions for false filings. Case referred for tax review. Judge speak for the IRS is coming. When it was over, Mom tried one last time. Sam, we can fix this. I buttoned my jacket, looked her dead in the eye, and said, You can't fix something that was fake your whole life. Then I walked out. No dramatic pause, no final speech, just done. Outside, the sun felt bright and clean. Carla caught up. You handled that well, I shrugged. They did all the work for me. She smirked. So what now? I smiled. Now I let the world do what it does best, gossip. About a week after the hearing, everything unraveled fast. Carla filed the follow-up tax review paperwork. I didn't ask questions. She handled it like a professional assassin, quiet and precise. Meanwhile, I stayed off the radar, worked from my home office, kept my phone on silent, and focused on my next venture. Life felt lighter. But my family? Not so much. Word got out, not because I leaked it, I'm not that petty, but because one of Carla's legal aides happened to be friends with a local journalist I'd mentored years ago. That week his column ran the headline, when entitled Families Target the Successful, a Cautionary Tale of Greed. Names were anonymized, but the details were unmistakable. The article went locally viral. Randy's HR department called it a brand risk. His name disappeared from the company website overnight. Mom's social circle, the women she bragged to about Randy's achievements, turned on her instantly. Lunch invitations dried up. Group chats went silent. She became the gossip instead of the gossip source. Dad's old co-workers unfriended him online. One even sent the article with a single word, wow. Randy got called into the office the following Monday and was fired on the spot. Ethical values and trust, they said. Translation, we don't want clients Googling your name and finding a fraud case. Mom texted me that night, you happy now? You destroyed your brother's career. How could you do this to family? I didn't reply, mostly because I was laughing. Destroyed his career. He forged legal documents. That's a self-inflicted wound. 2 days later, Carla forwarded a court notice. Randy's house was officially in foreclosure. Unpaid taxes, defaulted loans, and new fines from the fraud case had buried them. Then came the infamous family forgiveness email from Mom. Long, emotional, manipulative, ending with, I know deep down you don't want to see your family broken like this. I read it twice, then deleted it. I didn't owe her closure for a lifetime of favoritism. One night, Carla and I grabbed dinner after a meeting. She asked, You ever think about reconciling? I laughed. Reconcile what? They didn't lose a son, they lost a wallet. She nodded slowly. Fair enough. For the first time in years, I didn't feel anger or bitterness, just peace. 6 months later, one night around 11, there was pounding on my door. 3 sharp, angry knocks. I checked the camera, Randy. Hair greasy, hoodie stained, eyes wild. I thought about ignoring it, then figured, fine, one last lesson. The second I opened the door, he shoved his way inside. You think this is funny? He barked. Good evening to you too, I said calmly. You ruined my life, he shouted. Your stupid court stunt cost me my job, my wife, my reputation. I leaned against the wall. No, Randy, you cost yourself all that. He jabbed a finger at me. You could have helped me. You've got millions and you let me drown. Help you, I said. You forged my signature and tried to steal $10 million. That's not help. That's survival instinct. He stepped closer, jaw tight. You've always looked down on me ever since we were kids. I cut him off. No, I stopped looking at you the day you decided you were owed something just for existing. That hit him. Shame flickered behind the anger. You humiliated me, he hissed. People whisper my name like I'm a joke. I shrugged. Maybe stop giving them material. He snapped. You think you're untouchable? He swung, wild and sloppy. I didn't even think, just sidestepped, caught his shoulder and hit back once, clean, not hard, just enough to make the point. He stumbled, grabbed his jaw, eyes wide. "You hit me." "You swung first," I said. He looked pathetic, shaking, more lost than angry now. "You're heartless," he muttered. "No," I said. "I'm finally done being your backup plan." "Mom and Dad will never forgive you," he spat. "Good," I replied. "Means I finally did something right." He froze, like he hadn't expected that. "You don't get it. I've got nothing left." I stepped closer, voice low. "You had everything, chances, people, help. You burned it all. And now you're mad I didn't hand you another match." He clenched his fists again, but didn't swing. The fight was gone. Only ego remained. "Get out," I said. He didn't move. "You can't just—" I cut him off. "If you ever show up here again, or even text me, I'll file a restraining order so fast your next address will be a courtroom bench. Understand?" He blinked, speechless. "Go home, Randy, whatever's left of it." He mumbled something and shuffled out, shoulders slumped, leaving muddy footprints on the tile. I locked the door, made coffee, and stood by the window watching the city lights. Somewhere out there, my brother was probably blaming the world again, but that wasn't my problem anymore. People think cutting off family is cruel. It's not. It's surgery, painful but life-saving. He spent years believing he was the strong one because Mom stood behind him. The truth? I was the one who survived without backup. No apologies, no fixing, no going back. He wanted a fight. He got reality. And me? I got silence. They thought I owed them my success. Turns out they were just proof I never needed anyone to win.